You know, when it comes to a big race day like the July Handicap, the regular punters are sidelined. They are forgotten. It's catering for the novices.
Welcome to another edition of In the Box Seat. Today, no Andrew Harrison. He's currently stalking leopards and lions in the Kruger National Park, and we wish him and his family a happy holiday. He'll be back soon. Today, a podcast, different guest, and just wonderful how this guest and I crossed paths, and we'll hear a little bit more about that just now. The punter. We know that everybody in horse racing plays their part, but today the focus is going to be a little bit on the punter. And today we're joined by passionate punter, passionate racing lover, Roy Sukdhev. Roy, how are you?
Thank you very much for asking. Yes, I'm top of the world, especially to meet you in person. Always admiring your bubbly personality on TV, on Gallop TV.
You're too kind, Roy. Thank you very much. And we do our best. It's easy to be bubbly and happy when you're passionate for the game and you're passionate for its people and you're passionate for the animal, as are you. So we'll have a good time together. Let's firstly find out, Roy, where were you born? Where do you live? Tell us about Roy.
Okay. I was born in Pietermaritzburg, in a rural area in Pietermaritzburg, which was Slangsproot. Now it's called the Imbali Township.
Okay.
I was still very young, in my third or fourth year. After being born, my parents decided to move to Durban. I lived in Durban for the rest of my life. Most of my years I spent in Merebank. It's a little suburb towards the south coast.
Right.
And now I've been living in Phoenix for the last 35 years.
Okay.
And yeah, that's where I'm based at the moment.
Funnily enough, we're talking about Phoenix. I was just telling Dee's downstairs that I have to make a trip to Phoenix, to the Phoenix Plaza next week. It's a beautiful part of the North Coast, we could call it.
Please, when you come, contact me. We'll go and have a laka bunny chow there.
Well, that we will certainly do. That we will certainly do. Your interest and passion for horses, for racing, for punting, where did that's been your whole life, I'm sure?
Well, you could say it's been my whole life. But when I was a student at the Merebank High, right, and we had a very accommodating principal who allowed high school students and encouraged high school students to find part-time jobs in order to make some pocket money. And I think when the opportunity of being employed at Clarewood Racecourse and all the other racecourses, because Clarewood Racecourse was in Merebank, sort of, right. And he was very kind to allow us to go and earn some pocket money. And on race days, we were very privileged to be given time off to go to Clarewood, Greyville, and Scottsville. And I think that is where, we were employed as junior tote operators. And that was in 1974. And like everybody else, once you get involved in racing, it does grab you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my passion started in 1974.
You must have seen some top jockeys, top horses, top everything in your career. I'll call it your career of racing thus far.
Well, why do you think I'm still passionate? Because that became embedded in my life, as a recreational hobby. The thrill of horse racing, not only here in South Africa or in Durban, internationally.
Yes.
The thrill of horse racing is absolutely mind-blowing. And once it catches you in your blood, it's very difficult to leave horse racing. But having said that, one needs to have control as well, because I've seen how horse racing can also become addictive, in a sense that, if you don't have that control, you can become quite miserable in horse racing.
You were telling me off air that, maybe proud's not the right word, but you have mastered control, and I think you're quite right. If one of your vices is maybe smoking, you know, if you're going to smoke 120 cigarettes a day, it's no good. But, you know, if you're going to smoke 10 a day, you control it. If you're going to drink a lot of Coca-Cola, which is full of sugar, and you have 12 liters of Coca-Cola, it's no good. If you have 1 or 2 cans, you can get away with it. So control is what it's all about, everything in moderation. How have you mastered it? What advice can you give the punters? How do you master it?
Okay, I think through my personal experience and observation, right? After we finished working in the race course from being a student, then we used to go regularly to the race course with family and friends. And being the small player that I am, I used to go with members that, you know, used to play big bucks, and they are still big buck players. And what I experienced was, I'll give an example. They used to go with 1,000 rands, and I used to go with 200 rands. But at the end of the day, quite often, I came out with more money than them who punted with 1,000 rands. So it's not about how much you're going to play, but you have to play wisely and conservatively. And that stuck with me, basically. Because if you got the luck, you're going to make that money. So it doesn't mean more money, you got a better chance.
What my late uncle once shared with me, he was also, like all of us in our family, lover of the industry. You know, he said, if you take 100 rand and you fancy a horse and it's paying 100, it's paying 1 rand 90. You put 100 wins, it wins 190. We understand that. But he says, if you think about it and structure your bet differently and play a quartet, banker the horse that you're going to back by whatever, spend 100 rand, your horse wins, you click the quartet can pay 1,200 rand. You know, he always tried to drum it into me, try and get as much bang for your buck. Yes, if you put your 100 wins, you win 190 rand, that's great. But rather try and take a bit more of a risk and win a greater amount. That's what he taught me.
Well, horse racing or any gambling is a bit of a risk. It's not a bit of a risk, it is a risk.
Yes.
But you have to do a calculated risk, basically.
Yes.
You know, it's a gamble, it's a game of chance, right? And if you find something strong and that's going to run in the first 4, why not do that quartet? Because instead of winning 190 rand, you can win 1,900 rand, for example. So that is a good possibility as well.
Roy, how have you found in your time, I mean, you know, time moves on, technology, if you rewind the clock, in the old days, trainers maybe weren't approachable, jockeys were very private, social media was non-existent, comments weren't really a thing, and as times progressed, things have got better. I'm not saying that there's not room, in fact there is room to make it even more better. But transparency, what's your thoughts on transparency? What would you like to see more transparency of? That's what I'm trying to say.
It's a beautiful question, and I was hoping that you're going to ask me that question. Yes, transparency is galore, no doubt about that. Yes, we need more transparency, because judging from the punter's point of view, you know, I am on a social media where there's 6,000 members on that particular punters forum. The general comments are such that we would like to see more trainers' comments before the race rather than after the race, because after the race quite often we hear, this was one of my best horse for the day, or my best ride for the day. We would like to know that it does happen sometimes where we get those comments, but I think a more focused pre-race.
And maybe a bit more, you know, what's the word I'm looking for, before the race, and a lot more.
I think there's a room for improvement to have much more input before the race, because that's how we are, the punters get guided as well. And trainers and jockeys, whilst they are more, I would say, honest, but there's a limitation to that honesty. I think one needs to accept that, right? And the result speaks for itself. I not want to accuse any trainer or any jockey, because I understand racing, you know, but often on the chat groups, punters complain bitterly without evidence. They're making accusations, you know, it's without any intelligence applied to it. You know, if you make a sensible criticism, I'm sure we will be regarded as intelligent punters as well.
Yeah,
and if
absolutely.
we're going to be making stupid comments, then we fit into the mugs game very well, I would say, because we are regarded as mugs then.
Yeah,
But I think there's a lot of improvement needs to be made from the punter side. Yes, punters need more, and I'm hoping that, as we go further down, we're going to talk about what more punters are looking at. I mean, we need to be reasonable, right? We can't dictate terms. We are an important stakeholder in this racing game.
Absolutely.
But sadly, as a punter stakeholder, I don't think recognition is given to that by certain authorities, and that needs to come to the fore, especially with a major transformation taking place now with Gold Circle and Hollywood. Please, my appeal is, consider the punters as a key stakeholder, because without punters as one leg of the
cog or the part of
the wheel,
system, yes, the wheel,
taken out, it's not going to run, it's not going to be balanced.
Absolutely.
And that is my appeal. The punters need more, what shall I say, to be considered much more.
They are the clients, if for a lack of a better word, clients. They're your, if you're a doctor, your patients. They're your patients. You're in the racing industry. You're serving the industry. They're the clients. So that's a very, very good point. With regards to, I'm glad you brought up the transformation or the development, Cape Racing. I think the name possibly will be Race Coast, but that's just the name we're using loosely at the moment. Merging, you can see what's happened down in the Cape. More interviews, more presenters, more opinions, more etc. And I would imagine that that's going to filter through, Roy, to KZN.
Well, it proved to be very successful. And if something that is as successful as Cape Racing, one doesn't have to reinvent the wheel.
Sure.
Right? I think the time is coming now. We just have to be a little bit more patient. And with Greg Bott's involvement and Hollywood's involvement, and people like yourself who's got a great vision for horse racing, I think it augurs well for the future. Currently, I would hate to use the word, racing in KZN is quite dismal at the moment compared to the yesteryears when I used to be involved. And my last lap of my life, I would like to see that racing is rejuvenated in KZN.
Well, Roy, what I can tell you, having sat in on various meetings and looking at what's happening at Hollywood Bets, Greyville, Hollywood Bets, Kenilworth and Durbanville, I'm talking about home base where you and I live, and you'll see, as you walk back to your car, the painting, the construction, I know that's not, well, it affects the punter because they can come to a fresh building, safe, new roofs, secure buildings, as all those things affect all of us, staff.
The positive energy is being introduced now.
Correct. So you'll start seeing that. And what's that good old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Sure.
I want to ask you about, do you have a favorite bet type? What is your bet type that you enjoy?
Best time.
Best type of bet that you take? Is it in the quartet?
Exacta. Because sometimes to choose 4 horses is quite difficult.
Right, you're talking in the exactas, because you'll have heard me saying on TV a few times, I'm also an exacta player. For me, it's the value. Yes, you can take the favorite and a 30-to-1 shot. The 30-to-1 shot can run second, and it pays huge money.
Wins sometimes.
Correct, you box it. But if you take the favorite and the second favorite, and they arrive that way, some exactors pay well, 10 Rand, 12 Rand, 9 Rand, 8 Rand.
It surprises me how well they pay.
Correct.
Yes.
So you're right, the exactor, is you don't have to always look for that outsider. You could put maybe, there's so many ways of playing it. Box it, banker the favorite with an outsider and the second favorite. So exactors is your way to go.
Quite a few times I caught big exactors and they paid over 1,000 Rand.
They can pay. They certainly can pay. Let's break it down into 2 sections. As a punter, as you and your friends and the punters, and people don't realize too, and I've again spoken with Dee so many times, yes, we presenters, yes, we are racing, we also punters, we also owners, we are all in the same family boat together.
Same passion.
So you now go to, if you ask me the question, my answer would be different to yours, I'm sure. If you go into a tote, Tattersalls, a Hollywood, a Tab Gold outlet, you walk, what is it that you want? What do you want there? What are you looking for?
That's another brilliant question, right? The tab outlets, I find them to be gone very dingy. You know, there's a lot of improvements. If we want to sustain the racing, I'm talking more about KZN. When, you know, I think the outlets are, some of them are franchised, if
yes,
I'm correct.
Correct, yeah.
And some of them are owned by Gold.
Correct.
Right.
And obviously Hollywood Direct, etc.
Yes, yes, yeah. I think some focus needs to be put. There should be certain amount of standard, you know, a required standard,
Yes.
like a franchise. You have to abide by the franchisor's standards.
So basically, if you buy a Spur restaurant franchise and I buy a Spur franchise, we've got to be the same.
Well,
your standard in your place has got to be the same as in my place.
I would say that will attract more people as well.
Yeah.
But then we caught up in a situation, right? And I grappled to find the answer for this, right? And maybe you can provide us with some kind of direction. Do we want more people to attend the tab outlets and Tattersalls?
Great question you're throwing back at me.
Or attend the race course, where you're watching the action in flesh? It's a great place to socialize. It's a great atmosphere. We used to have that, Warren. We used to enjoy that. And that was taken away.
Yeah.
And by it being taken away, those same serious, passionate punters will look elsewhere.
Correct.
And that is said, being a passionate racing man, I want to see those punters come back on course.
Yes.
Yes, there are people who will still fill the totes, because you ask somebody, okay, I was of the opinion, why so many malls? I thought the malls won't get full. We put another 5 malls in any suburb, it will still be packed.
Yes, yes.
Right? So people have their own choice. We mustn't have the fear that, okay, the tabs are going to be full and the race course. We must offer the attraction for people to come back, and that needs to be attended to as a priority. We don't have to wait for the transformation,
Yes.
right? We can start now. There's so many things that the racing man and their family and children can come and do together on the race course.
Yes.
Each one have their own interest.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't, one doesn't have to have an MBA to introduce that, but it just seemed to have fallen apart and seemed to have forgotten. And I'm hoping through this kind of interviews and, you know, with your type of marketing, social media, we're going to generate this kind of interest, basically.
I know that on particularly Friday evenings here at Hollywood Best Gravel, yes, there is a band now and again. There's the kids zone. But as you say, there's more. You can grow that more. And I think once that happens, you know, with the current entertainment is approaching, what's the word I'm looking for? Is attracting X amount of people. I think if we built that entertainment more, obviously it would attract a lot more people. So, you know, in your opinion, if you're coming with a bunch of friends to the race course and maybe 1 or 2 of your friends aren't punters or racing people, what would they like to do? Picnic spot, live music, those kind of things?
Well, not too long ago, I would say, when I used to attend the race course regularly with friends, especially night racing. And the crowd was fairly decent.
Yes.
And we had entertainment. Few weeks ago, a family member of mine decided, let's go and experience what night racing is. And I'm sad to say, I don't think he spent an hour on the race course.
Okay.
They decided to go back. Not enough place to buy a decent food, no entertainment. I got my grandson introduced in horse racing. Whenever he's sitting with watching racing,
yes,
he'll want to take a bet with me. So much so, I'm trying to get him off my back now.
Here's how you access Gallop TV on the gallop.co.za website, where you can watch live horse racing from anywhere around the world for free. Now, once you're on the gallop.co.za website, click on the menu bar on the top left-hand corner. Once you're on the Gallop TV page, you'll have the option to watch the Clean RSA feed. This feed provides live coverage from all racecourses across South Africa. If you choose this feed, you'll have the option to listen to the isiZulu commentary. If you don't want to watch the Clean RSA feed, you can explore other racing streams, Gallop TV 1, Gallop TV 2, or GBI Racing, which specifically covers UK racing. Simply click on any of these to start watching international horse racing from anywhere around the world. Once you're on any one of these channels, look for the upcoming races slider. If you want to place a bet, you have the option of betting with Tab Gold or Hollywood Bets. Just click on any one of these buttons and it will take you straight to their websites. If you want to see a schedule of all the upcoming races, click on Live Guide at the top of the page. This guide shows you the race schedules from all the race courses that Gallop TV is covering. You can see the full lineup for Gallop TV 1, Gallop TV 2, and GBI Racing, so you always know what's coming up next. Now, there we go. That's how you access Gallop TV on gallop.co.za. Visit gallop.co.za right now to see all the amazing features that it has. Back to the podcast.
Your opinion on couplings. Couplings, what are your thoughts on that? Because everyone's entitled to an opinion and everybody has an opinion. What do you think about couplings?
You see, I'm not an exotic player, a pick six or a jackpot, but from the comments on the social media and the Punters forum that I'm a member of, people are crying out for couplings, right? We know without coupling, the payouts are bigger. So we need to debate that what is better, bigger payouts, bigger punters coming and participating, or smaller payouts and more people being happy.
Yes.
I don't have that answer for that. But judging from the punters' points on the social media, they are crying out for couplings.
Couplings, okay.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if that can be considered, people have their different opinions, but I'm saying that is the general, thinking they would like. And the other thing is about the fourth place payout. How often do we have 16 runners and more? Very seldom these days.
Yes.
Fields are very, very small. In fact, punters are saying there should be fourth place payout if there's a 14 runners. And I think that's a reasonable point, I would say. Yes. What was the reason? Probably we as punters need to be educated that the fourth place payout can only be done if there's 16 horses or more.
Yeah.
It's nice to know the reasoning. Obviously, I don't think that somebody just decides, okay, 16 horses, then we'll give them. We need to know the reasoning for that. So punter education is equally important.
Yeah, that's a good point, because as you said, somebody wouldn't have woken up in the morning and said, let's just do it. There must be reasoning and thinking to it.
Absolutely.
And as you say, if that gets communicated, everybody knows.
Well, understand.
Well, maybe some people do know, but not everybody knows. So, and our podcast, we do jump around a little, but that's okay. Gallop TV is Hollywood Gold Circle. They've invested a lot of money, a lot of time. What are your thoughts on the channel?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I can't, like you can see, I raised certain points that need some kind of concentration. Sure. With Gallop TV, it'll take me some time to find what needs to be improved on Gallop TV. I think the presenters that are there doing an excellent job, you know, with your professional skill and marketing skill and in-depth interviews with the winning jockey and trainer is brilliant. But I think pre-race comments, maybe, you know, one can't interview majority of the trainers and jockey, but just the comments, what the because very often, and I find that not nice, I didn't want to use any other word, that when you ask a winning jockey, you know, what are the chances of his other rides? And very often, that was my best ride. But the same jockey goes and wins 3 more races after that as well. Or the trainer, right? So and I think we need to be much more transparent with that.
Yes.
We know, although I understand, horses are animals. They are made of flesh and blood. They may be well in the morning, during the course of the day, like how human beings get affected,
It's a great analogy.
right? We also get affected. It must, you see, what has happened, and sometimes I think it's rightfully so, so much of things have taken place that a lot of people have started speculating. So racing from a game of ethics and integrity has suddenly become a game of suspicion, you know, rightfully or wrongfully. It has become a game of great. Every favorite that loses, there's unfair criticism, not realizing how the favorite has been priced, who priced it at the same, not looking at the form. There's a lot of factors that needs to be taken into consideration. Yes. So to accuse a jockey or a trainer, which happens more often, I don't think that's right.
Yeah. Now, do you not think that that stems from terms like grandstand jockeys, people, punters, talking from their pockets?
Very much so. And that is one of my, what shall I say, dislikes from punters. And I correct them. I correct them on the chats, you know, telling them, you know, depending on what point they make,
yes,
that is really not the case. Because every race and every jockey or a trainer has to try to win. That's the first priority. Yes, we understand the other side of racing as well, where questions arise. How come did that horse lose? You know, everything was in its favor. Sure. The pre-race interviews, everything was positive, and then the horse doesn't run in the first 6.
Yeah,
you know, then
absolutely.
You know, previously, typed reports were evident in every race card.
Now that you mention that, when we did the little race card, because I say we've got that big Gallop form, but you're right, they used to publish that. Again, with technology, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm not saying I'm right. I like hard copies of things. It's obviously on their website. So for the punters that actually didn't know that, if you go onto the NHA website, the Stipes report for the whole country is there for you to go and view. But it's on the website, it's not in the race card. You saying maybe publish it in the race card possibly?
Well, I didn't even know it was on the website until yesterday, when somebody very actively involved in horse racing.
So as you, it's all about communication.
Communication is the key. Yes.
And you say, of course, horses are flesh and blood, and they're animals, and they can serve up bad runs and etc. But just going back to that talking from the pockets, if you put 100 rand on a horse, and I'm just using that number, it can be 4 rand, it can be 6 rand, 10,000 rand, and the horse gets beat. It's not nice to hear people get personal, as you say, about the jockey and the trainer. Yes, we're human beings, we're grumpy because we've lost our money, we've made the wrong decision, the horse maybe stumbled, it didn't go our way. So there's a difference between grumbling amongst, if you and I are sitting in the tote and we do, I'm so cross, I chose the wrong horse, my horse pecked, but you get grumpy, you lost your money. But there's no need to get personal and to start saying this one's a crook, that one's a crook, as the point that you've just raised, talking from the pocket.
The other thing one must understand, and I'm hoping a lot of people will take heed of this. If horse racing is your hobby and you want to play horse racing, and if you have an expectation of winning most of the time, my strong advice is get out of horse racing as a sport. Be prepared to lose and regard winning as a bonus. You start enjoying the game better. Because I play regularly. Small punter, I play regularly. I lose, I can sleep at night, right? I'm not going to double up my bets or whatever the case may be. So I think one needs to bring control again into place as well. So if you want to win money and if you think it's a game of investment, choose something else, I would say.
It's fair. When we chatted early on, we don't want to mention exactly the horses, exactly trainers of the past, exactly jockeys of the past. But one thing you did want to talk about is the Jockeys Championship. Now, there was a comment, and that's another thing, ladies and gentlemen, as Roy and I enjoy just a sip of water to refresh ourselves. the comments, comment on our pages, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things. Comment. Again, as we appeal to you, as I appeal, Andrew, and I appeal to you, fair comments. You know, if you're going to phone and put comments, derogatory comments, we're not going to entertain that because it's about respect for one another. But ask a question, put out a comment there, and let's discuss it. We might not be able to get to every single question, but comment and let's see. Because why I'm going to that point is that we've received a comment from a viewer, and from a viewer, yes, and we're not going to give you the person's name because that's not what it's about. We're just going to discuss the question, and I want to discuss it with you, Roy. I just want to find it. Please, you've got to also understand that these questions are not my view or Gold Circle's view or none of that. It's somebody out in the public. This person, and we were just, because we're going to talk about jockeys championships in a moment. This person says they wish that Carice Teeton would come back to South Africa. We interviewed Carice Teeton. That's not going to happen into the foreseeable future. That's what he said in his podcast. He said the jockeys that we have here at home at the moment, he's worried about. Consistency of the young riders. We also got to understand that an apprentice jockey, you know, if you're a plumber, you're an apprentice plumber, you're going to put the wrong pipe in the wrong taps and things. It can happen, you know. But he's concerned about the young riders. But we've got to say that they are learning. They may win on an outsider, and then they're not seen for some time. And he finds it a little bit disappointing. I hear this gentleman's comment. I don't know how to answer it. Maybe you can help me.
You see, the comment about our South African jockeys, I think that's a bit unfair, because I think our Jockeys Academy is of top class.
Yes.
And I've seen our young jockeys. I think they are developing into class jockeys. That's my personal observation. Compared to yesteryears, you know, you can see the talent amongst the jockeys in the second year or in the third year. They're becoming, you know, what shall I say, excellent, they're growing with excellent potential. So that point doesn't go down as something that really warrants merit. I think we're developing top class jockeys.
But we've also got to remember, I agree with you, we've also got to remember, with times changing, progression, etc., if you go back 15 years and you walked into a jockey room, in any jockey room in the country of South Africa, you know, there would be 20 top world jockeys that could go around the world and compete. Now today, maybe it's not 20, maybe it's 10, for whatever reason. I think we've got to take that into consideration as well, you know, and not everybody can be, you know, it's impossible for everybody to be brilliant, you know.
100%.
I mean, it's
100%.
You know, you get top doctors, you get average doctors, you get run-of-the-mill doctors. I think it's the same as any profession, really. You get a good pilot, you get an average pilot, you know. It's impossible if you've got 150 jockeys in South Africa, it's impossible for all 150 to be champions.
But what I would like to add with regard to that, I've noticed that, you know, the up-and-coming jockeys, they need to get more opportunities as well.
Yes.
I think with the opportunities, that can create better jockeys as well.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes, obviously, you have to identify the jockeys with potential. Obviously, they will attract more rides and things like that. So, obviously, it's a game of merit as well, right? But I think more support from owners, trainers, to give the youngsters a chance. And from my observation, I noticed that they are being given the chance.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But what happens once they lose the 4 kg allowance?
Becomes tougher.
Then it becomes so much tougher.
You know what I saw, and by the time this podcast is flighted, it'll probably be, well, possibly early Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. But one thing I did notice, which you know, you were speaking about chances. There's a horse that's running, or would have ran, depending when you're watching this podcast, called Super Fast. Now, Super Fast, 3 starts ago, was ridden by the young apprentice Mkolisi Mbuto. He finished 5th on the horse. He then rode it again, and he finished 2nd a neck behind Voldemort. Now, Mr. Tony Riverland and Mrs. Mary Lally have stuck with this young rider to, because it can happen that he ran 5th on it, the apprentice, 2nd on it. Now they come and put Pierre Stradum on. I'm just using a name. A senior jockey could put Sean Veal, could put anybody. I'm just using a name as an example. But they've stuck with this.
That is what we would like to see.
These are the chances that they need to prove themselves.
Absolutely, on the button.
But it doesn't happen. I mean, that's the best case scenario.
Yes,
it
100%.
doesn't happen 25 times a day. We understand that.
That's a very valid.
But you're right. You've got to get a chance. You know, you've got to get a chance, and that's the same with trainers. You know, if you send a trainer. We talk about horses, humans, you get top horses, average horses, medium horses, not so good horses. If you're going to give a trainer 20 not so good horses and want him to win the Hollywood Bets Durban July, it's not going to happen. So it's as you say, it's about the chances. It's about the chances. The next point, and sure, we've really gone through a lot, and we're going to keep going through a few more things. I just want to get my ducks in a row here. Roy, where do you live?
In Phoenix.
You're in Phoenix. Okay, that's right. You did mention you're in Phoenix. Quite right. Okay. Social media. Oh, yeah, we've touched on grandstand jockeys talking from the pocket. There's actually 2 questions really, and then we can just about wrap up. Social media platforms. I mean, how big are you on social media? And yeah, do you tap onto the Gold Circle, Cape Racing, Facebook platforms?
Not as often as I would like to because of time factor. I told you, now in my retirement, I'm more busy than when I was working.
Tell us about that. Yes, tell us about you retired. What are you doing in your retired time that you need to retire from your retirement?
Yeah, I've been very involved in community work throughout my life.
Okay.
My wife was diagnosed with cancer in 2018. So thereafter, how do you show gratitude? I started a cancer support group.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And we helped a lot of cancer patients with free screening, sometimes when we had funding with free medications, supplements. So that kept me busy for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
Now that has been handed to the other members who's running with that, and I started focusing on individual cancer patients, giving them the advice, because once you're diagnosed with cancer, I know this is not a platform to talk about cancer.
No, not at all. It's a platform to talk about whatever we like.
We've been through the mill. We were dumbfounded, we were shocked out of our mind, didn't even know what to do. I could maybe not spell cancer properly. That's how ignorant I was. Today, I stand up at doctors' platforms who are very keen to listen to me what the patient has to say and what needs to be done, right? And being involved, then I'm involved with community upliftment programs because social cohesion. I mean, we need that thing. We need social cohesion to exist in this country. Yes. Each one is pulling apart, and I don't have to go into the details how our country is going. So very involved with international organizations, introducing social cohesion, then very active with the gift of the givers who've come and done training for our community on disaster management and all kinds of community upliftment projects. But now, reaching 70 years, I'm taking stock of myself. I don't have the same amount of energy. So I'm just being very selective of what we can do, give advice on social media, what a cancer patient can do, how you can cut costs, because healthcare costs in South Africa has become unaffordable, basically.
Sure. Funnily enough, we were just talking with some friends last night about the cost of medical aid. It's a huge cost, but it's a must cost,
Essential.
Essential is because it's just, it is what it is, really.
Very much so. But also, one needs to use your own intelligence, because today, I'm going to be reckless and say health costs has become quite reckless as well. It has become reckless. Yeah. And we as patients allowing that to happen, and there are other alternatives, and we need to look at other effective alternatives where across the world the medical researchers and clinicians are advising, but it's not happening yet.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's for another day,
Yeah.
another time.
Well, that's interesting that what you do in your retired time, and I wish you success, further success with that. Just to go back again to tools about how to find winners and how to, I'm sure you've seen, and again, everyone will have a difference of opinion. Until it was explained to me, I saw the value of it. The predictor, that
Yes.
predictor has come up. Now, some people might say, oh, the predictor, what is that? No, how does it think? The statistics. There was somebody, a gentleman that asked me, Selwyn Elk, I think was his name, also a long-standing racing person. Sometimes in the predictor, they will predict a unraced horse ahead of a horse that's got form. So maybe there's a horse in the race that's got form, that's got little form and a low rating, but there's betting money for the first timer. It takes all that into effect.
Okay.
Therefore, it will predict the unraced horse ahead of the bad form. That's how it comes.
Right.
Betting moves. That's what I've been told. But that predictor, if you look at it a bit more, you might say, oh, the predictor didn't tip the winner of that race. But the predictor might have said that Dancer's daughter, who's a 25 to 1 shot, can run a place, and it certainly did. And I didn't put that in the quartet, or I wasn't thinking of putting that in the quartet, but I'm now going to put that in the quartet. So that's where that predictor comes in, where it's not necessarily about trying to tip the winner. I've never met any, have you met anybody that if there's 9 races on the day, they've tipped all 9 winners? Have you met anybody like that? Because I haven't.
I'd love to.
I'd love to, yeah, absolutely, because it's near impossible. Hollywood Bets Punters Challenge, there are a few people that do it,
Yes.
but it's not few and far between. It's not a common occurrence because it's hard to tip winners.
Absolutely.
It's hard to find winners. But that predictor, look at it in a different light and maybe see what the result is. Say, these are the first 4. The second horse wasn't part of my equations, and maybe put it in, and it runs a place. It helps. That's what it's about.
What I would like to know about the predictor, it's a nice tool to have, but what information, who puts in that information to forecast?
It's through, the Gallop website. The Gallop website is there with the past forms, times, speed ratings, all that.
Okay.
That whole computer network gets fed into, and it's the same as very similar to if you see in the front page of the official winning form, they've got that prediction. That's all computer generated. The times, the distances, the betting, the jockey stats, the trainer stats, and then it spits out a prediction. It's a guideline. It's a guideline. It's not a. And at the end of the day, the punter, makes their final decision. I can get told this horse is working well. This is my best ride. The predictor says it'll finish second. The statistics in the winning form say it'll win. But I might not like that horse after all that information. It's my decision to say I don't like the horse. I'm going to back number 6. Whom I like. At the end of the day, the punter makes the final call. Is that a fair statement to say?
Totally.
Yeah. So that's the predictor. Back to social media, our penultimate point. So the social media you do watch as often as you can.
Very much
because, and I urge you and share with your friends because, there are tools there, interviews. Michelle Wing's done a great video on the rejuvenation of the poly track. I mean, that is so informative, Roy, and I don't know if you've seen it yet. Go up onto the page and to the viewers and go and watch that because it's so informative about what they're doing, how they're doing it. And then there was a gentleman that put a comment, a silly comment, about the maintenance of the track, etc. The current economic climate for most businesses hasn't been great. But rather, instead of looking at the negative, be joyous that we're going to have a new polytrack, a rejuvenated polytrack.
And
Look for that rather than the
so
negative.
much needed, and it's
needed, absolutely.
It's a long time coming. We should be appreciative that it's being upgraded now.
By Hollywood.
Exactly,
So
absolutely.
there's lots to be positive and happy about.
100%.
Rather than saying, well, why wasn't it maintained or why was it this? Look at the positive. Look at the positive.
See, Hollywood has come in for a lot of criticisms, right? But look at the what shall I say, the investment they have made. They saved racing, basically. Punters, punters need to be considered. We were talking about my involvement in my retirement with community work and medical. Racing needs to become punter-centered, and that's lacking. That is definitely lacking.
That's a fair point. That's the comment that you've made. That's the statement that
Right.
you've made. The last thing I want to ask you is, have you ever owned a share? Now, we're talking about punting, gambling, etc., etc. Have you ever owned a share in a racehorse?
I didn't own a share in any horses, but I shared the ecstasy of horse racing because my nephew owned horses.
Okay.
I think, Warren, it could have been before your time, but I don't think so much so. I don't know if you know the trainer's time, Cyril Naidu.
Very well. Very, very well.
My nephew owned a grade 1 horse with
Oh,
them.
wow. Okay.
Historical Lady,
No, I remember Historical Lady very well.
my nephew's horse. So
Sure.
whilst I didn't have a share with him,
It was like you
but
had
we
this-
shared the joy.
Well, that's what it's all about. And that's why, and there's going to be also a lot of emphasis on syndication.
Yes, that's
over
the
there
way
as
to go.
Because, you know, if you've got a 1% share, there you had I say it respectfully, you had a 0% theoretically, but through your son's interest, you know, it felt like you owned the horse. What a
Exactly.
pleasure, what
Yeah.
a joy. You know,
Sure,
that's what
sure.
it's about.
Sure.
And that's where syndication, I've got friends that have got 1% in a horse. They
No.
absolutely love it. It's like they own 10 horses.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. It's sharing the joy.
No, and I think that syndication is the way to go.
Yeah. Look, some people hate syndication. You know, if you can afford to have your
Exactly.
own racehorse
Yeah.
and you can race on your own, that's great. But everybody's different. And I think the fact that the operators have taken that into consideration, that maybe there's somebody out there who would like to own a share in a horse that may not be able to afford a huge chunk of money, like most, you know, there's an opportunity to be able to do it. So I think that's exciting too. Yeah.
What I just want to, before we part, I just want to make one input, and it was a very valid input that was brought to my attention. And it wasn't because it was brought to my attention, but also my observation. You know, the time when we used to have race goers flocking to the race course, right, in their numbers. But sadly, you know, when it comes to a big race day like the July Handicap, the regular punters are sidelined. They are forgotten. It's catering for the novices. Yes, we need the novices because the hope is that they will get interested. We must not ignore that. We must never ignore the fashion parade, whatever the case, the glitter and the glamour. But there has to be a way of ensuring an X number of punters can afford coming to the race course on those big races, because that is the most important day in a punter's
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
And some system needs to be introduced, how an X percentage of punters in some way qualify to come, maybe a loyalty system
Yes,
or whatever
yes,
the
yes,
case
yeah,
may be,
yeah.
but the regular punters, because that is the biggest day for our
Of the
local
flair.
punters.
Good
Aside-
point. Yeah, good point. Absolutely good point. Roy, do you have any other hobbies? Are you a sports fan? Soccer, cricket, anything else? Grandchildren?
Oh, grandchildren. Well, I introduced.
We need another whole podcast for the grandchildren.
I introduced my 5-year-old son, grandson, into horse racing, and I regretted why I introduced him to it. Because every time when I'm not even watching racing, aren't you putting the telly track? I want to take a bet. Now he's gone so wise. Well, I think he's got a good sense of choice. He wants to bet overseas. He's telling me. 5-year-old, mind you, 5-year-old, right? So yeah, it's become a bit of a challenge because I'm trying to get him out of it now. But the other hobby is watching relaxational, meditational music.
Okay.
I love
okay,
it.
Okay.
Spirituality. Watching I'm not a religious person. Watching spiritual programs, meditational music
Okay,
gives me great amount of joy. So
Well, you've given me and the viewers a great amount of joy to be with you here today on our podcast. As always, time, it is what it is, time. Time waits for nobody. But Roy, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for coming to see us. Thank you for sharing your story with everybody. And just thank you for loving horse racing and all those punters that I'm sure when we send you that clip, you will put on that group for everybody to see. It goes onto our YouTube, it goes onto our Facebook page, it goes everywhere for everybody to watch and enjoy and comment. Thank you, and all the best
I
to
never
you.
expected to be so warmly accommodated by you, Warren. I promise you, because I know the punters are earning a bad reputation of being so negative and sarcastic. I thought the fear will be that I'm going to be a complainer. Yes, I did complain about certain things, but thank you so much for warmly accommodating me. It speaks volumes
Yeah.
of you as an individual, Gallop TV and Gold Circle and Hollywood going through, and if they can only take heed of what we are trying to achieve together, bring back the people to the race course, basically. and the race.
100%, Roy, and don't look at it as a complaint, look at it as an opinion, and rest assured, Rome wasn't built in a day, as I say. Changes are coming, things are happening, and we're in very good hands. So thank you for your kind words, and as I said, thank you for your love of the sport. It's been great, and yes, just to you and your family, and you were mentioning about maybe just the last point. Everyone has dislikes and likes. The punter, I love the punters, I love the people, and so does everybody. So does all our presenters, so does the staff, so does everybody. But when people hurl abuse at you, it's not great. It's not great because the punters are hurting. We're also hurting because it's not easy. And for me, I just want everyone to respect and love one another. It's so simple.
But we need to continue educating punters as well, and for them to understand that not everything is crooked.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Roy Sukdhev. It's been a great hour, and it's just been great. And we look forward to welcoming Andrew back next week. There's lots of racing action. Get onto the websites. There's 2 sales coming up. There's lots and lots of racing action, sales, all coming your way. And that's a wrap from us at the In the Box Seat podcast. Roy Sukdhev taking the time to come and be with us, share his thoughts and opinions. Punt well, stay safe, and be kind. And remember, as always, we'll see you in the number 1 box.